The sky didn't go dark. It blinked. At Arrow 217 UTC, every satellite feed, every observatory lens, every amateur telescope pointed at the same patch of space recorded a single-frame absence. Not an explosion, not interference. Just a gap. A perfect circular section of stars that failed to exist for exactly 0.8 seconds. Then everything returned. Most people never noticed. But deep beneath Nevada's desert, inside a monitoring facility that officially didn't exist, the anomaly triggered level black. Dr. Elena Cross replayed the frame again and again. "It's not signal loss," she whispered. "It's subtraction." The circle hadn't been covered. It had been removed. Astrophysical impossibilities usually meant instrument error, but 12 independent systems across Earth confirmed the same coordinates. Worse, the missing stars weren't random. They formed a precise geometric boundary, a boundary facing Earth. Within hours, a faint transmission followed from the exact center of the vanished region. Not radio, not light. It arrived as a fluctuation in background radiation, a subtle rearrangement of cosmic noise. When translated into waveform structure, it formed something terrifyingly familiar. A countdown. No numbers, no symbols. Just a repeating contraction pattern that shortened every cycle. Global agencies locked it down fast. Media blackout, classified briefings. But leaks move faster than governments. Fragments surfaced online. Clipped telescope feeds, grainy screenshots, whispers of a cosmic timer. Most dismissed it as a hoax, until the second blink. This time it lasted 2 full seconds. The same circle, the same coordinates. But when the stars returned, one detail had changed. A new object appeared inside the boundary. A dot, darker than surrounding space, perfectly still. It wasn't moving toward us. It wasn't moving at all. Elena felt the shift before the data confirmed it. Gravitational readings around the region showed micro-distortions, controlled distortions. Whatever the dot was, it wasn't natural mass. It was anchored, and the countdown pattern accelerated. The Pentagon labeled it passive threat unknown. NASA refused comment. The European Space Agency quietly repositioned 3 telescopes. China launched an unscheduled satellite for calibration purposes. But calibration didn't explain what came next. The third blink didn't remove stars. It removed distance. For 0.8 seconds, the object appeared closer, significantly closer, as if space itself had folded. When reality snapped back, calculations estimated the mass had advanced millions of kilometers without crossing the intervening space. No propulsion, no trajectory, just reduction. Elena stared at the live feed. "It's not coming here," she said slowly. "It's reducing the separation." Because that meant something far worse than invasion. It meant proximity wasn't measured in distance. It was measured in phase, and whatever was inside that circle wasn't traveling through space. The countdown continued, faster now. Elena could feel it in her bones before the instruments confirmed it. The dot wasn't just approaching in space. It was approaching in phase, in alignment, in something deeper than position. Every atom of matter, every photon, seemed to acknowledge its presence. Global networks were buzzing. Unexplainable data anomalies flooded satellites. GPS systems reported impossible positions. Time discrepancies appeared in communication logs. Messages sent seconds apart arrived in inverted order. The world outside the Nevada facility remained oblivious. News outlets reported nothing. The anomaly had been classified level Omega. Even within governments, the few who knew were unsure whether to panic or pray. Inside the lab, Elena's team worked frantically. Quantum field sensors, gravimetric scanners, and cosmic background analyzers all screamed variations outside the laws of physics. The dot was not just here, it was everywhere along a trajectory we couldn't measure. Then it blinked again. This time the object fractured. Not physically, but perceptually. Multiple shadows emerged, ghostly reflections that didn't obey light. Each projection aligned differently with Earth's rotation, yet each appeared closer than possible. "It's testing us," whispered one of the physicists. "Or it's calibrating," Elena corrected, "calibrating us." Each blink left subtle changes, subtle, but accumulating. Power grids reported micro-fluctuations. Seismic monitors, far from any fault lines, recorded minuscule tremors. Biological rhythms of lab personnel accelerated. Heartbeats, neural activity, even the rate at which thoughts formed. The dot wasn't moving in space. It was moving in reality. Elena realized something terrifying. Distance was meaningless. Time was irrelevant. Physics was pliable. And humanity was being measured. Not as a species, but as a system. "It wants a response," she said softly. Her words hung in the sterile air. If the countdown reached 0, the rules of the universe as they knew it would no longer apply. The dot blinked once more, and the air itself seemed to shimmer. Something was about to happen. Something that would decide if humanity was observed or replaced. The facility was eerily silent. Even the hum of servers seemed muted. Elena stared at the monitors, tracing the path of the dot. It no longer obeyed linearity. Its movement was a ripple through everything: space, time, perception. The countdown had shrunk to 3 cycles. Each one felt like an eternity. Suddenly, the instruments registered an impossible signal. Quantum fluctuations in the local environment not caused by anything known. Molecules oscillated slightly out of phase, electrons skipping expected energy levels. Reality itself was trembling. "It's adapting to our observation," one scientist muttered. "No," Elena corrected, her voice low and steady. "We're adapting to it." Outside the lab, the world carried on, unaware. Satellites recorded data that no human or AI could interpret. Military and research networks were flooded with anomalies too subtle for alarms but too consistent to ignore. Then, the dot blinked again. This time, the blink created a ripple across all visual feeds simultaneously. Every camera, every telescope, every eye that was observing saw the same impossible alignment. The object appeared inside the atmosphere, yet calculations confirmed it hadn't crossed a single kilometer of space. It was closer. Closer in a way that defied physics. Elena felt a pressure in her mind. Subtle but undeniable. Thoughts didn't form as they should. Intuitions crystallized before reasoning could catch up. It was as if the dot was not just present, but communicating in a language beyond sound or symbols. "It's scanning," she whispered to herself. "Or learning." Then the countdown shrank to 2 cycles. The dot's ghostly projections multiplied. Each iteration wasn't identical. Slight variations appeared, like the object was testing multiple outcomes simultaneously. One shadow aligned with the facility's ceiling, another with the Earth's magnetic field, another with the neural patterns of personnel. It wasn't just measuring space. It was measuring us. "Prepare for phase interaction," Elena said. No one responded immediately. Words felt insufficient. The final cycle approached, and then the dot blinked once more. Everything went black. Not the monitors, not the lights, but the room, the world, the sense of being inside a familiar universe. For a heartbeat, or maybe an hour, the countdown had ended, and humanity realized it was no longer observing the universe. The universe was observing us. When the lights returned, nothing was as it had been. Monitors flickered with impossible readings. Some showed overlapping timelines. Others displayed stars and galaxies in positions that didn't exist. Every instrument in the lab seemed alive, as if trying to reconcile reality with something beyond comprehension. Elena touched the nearest console. The screen pulsed beneath her fingers, responding not to commands, but to intention. Every thought she had, every hesitation, seemed mirrored in the data streams. "It's not just observing," whispered a junior scientist, voice trembling. "It's integrating us, our perception, into itself." The dot, or what remained of it, was no longer a point in space. It had fragmented, dispersed across the electromagnetic spectrum, across quantum fields, and even into the neurons of the human mind. Global communications picked up anomalies. Messages appeared before they were sent. Images displayed events that hadn't happened yet. People began reporting flashes of insight, predictions, decisions that felt simultaneously inevitable and impossible. Elena realized with a cold clarity, the countdown wasn't about arrival, it was about assimilation. The dot had rewritten the rules. The world outside remained oblivious, yet every human was now, in some subtle way, part of the system. Our choices, our patterns, even our mistakes were being mapped, analyzed, and incorporated. And then the final anomaly appeared. Across every display and every corner of the globe, the same message pulsed, not as text, but as raw signal, instinctively understood. Align or dissolve. No one knew what it meant. Elena understood immediately. The object, or whatever it had become, was giving humanity a choice: adapt, integrate, evolve, or cease to matter. In the blink that followed, the room seemed to stretch. The facility itself was no longer a fixed location. Walls rippled as though reality was malleable. Time lagged, then accelerated, then froze, and in the midst of it, Elena felt a singular thought crystallize. They weren't just witnesses anymore. They were participants, and the universe had just leveled the rules. The lab wasn't a lab anymore. Elena could feel it in every fiber of her being. Gravity, light, even thought itself had changed its rhythm. Instruments still hummed, but their readings made no sense, except to someone or something beyond understanding. Outside, satellites began reporting something unprecedented. The dots of light in the night sky were shifting, not randomly, but deliberately. Constellations were rearranging, as if tracing a pattern meant only for those who could perceive it. "It's creating a map," Elena whispered. "A framework, a language." Her team watched in tense silence. Each blink of the fragmented dot now generated subtle physical effects: minor fluctuations in air pressure, shifts in electromagnetic fields, and most terrifyingly, alterations in human perception. Thoughts, intentions, even memories felt interconnected. One of the physicists, pale and shaking, muttered, It's not communicating with us. It's communicating through us." Elena realized the truth. The countdown had been meaningless in the sense they'd assumed. It wasn't a timer. It was a synchronization protocol, a test to align human consciousness with the dot's emergent state. And humanity was already mid-phase. Then the dot blinked again. This time, the ripple hit the global neural network. Millions of people experienced flashes of insight simultaneously. Images, patterns, probabilities that no human brain should be able to process. For a moment, all minds felt connected, as if everyone shared a single perspective. The network wasn't perfect, not yet. But the impulse was clear. Integration had begun. Elena understood the object or system was not hostile. It didn't want to destroy, it wanted to merge, to fold human perception into something larger. A single thought crystallized in her mind. This is the beginning, not the end. The blinking dot faded into the spectrum, no longer visible but everywhere at once. The countdown had concluded. And in that instant, humanity's role in the universe had fundamentally shifted, from observers to participants in an experiment far beyond comprehension. The sky looked the same, but nothing beneath it was unchanged. Everything had evolved, and the first true choice had been made, not by governments, scientists, or armies, but by the collective awareness of the human species. The signal was silent now, but its presence was undeniable. Elena exhaled, and in that breath she knew one truth. The last signal had arrived. Humanity woke differently the next day. No alarms, no sirens. The world seemed unchanged. But anyone paying attention noticed subtle shifts. Systems that had been rigidly predictable now displayed anomalies. Algorithms produced unexpected results. Markets, weather models, and even AI-driven creative programs began showing deviations too precise to be random. Elena walked through the lab, observing the data feeds. Each screen now displayed a living web of interconnections, Earth itself mapped not as a planet, but as a node in a sprawling, invisible network. Lines of influence, probability threads, and energetic flows connected everything from subatomic particles to entire satellites. "It's not controlling us," one of the physicists said. "It's suggesting possibilities, nudging outcomes." Elena nodded slowly. "It's teaching," she whispered, "or guiding evolution." The fragmented dot, invisible to the naked eye, had become a constant presence. Every blink had imprinted its signature into the world, tiny, cumulative shifts in reality. People began acting slightly differently, innovating, improvising, and thinking in ways that subtly defied prior patterns. Creativity surged unpredictably. In the observation feeds, the dot's former trajectory now appeared as a complex, pulsating waveform, a heartbeat threading through the fabric of human consciousness. Then came the first incident. A small, unremarkable town in Montana recorded a simultaneous decision in multiple households. People instinctively rerouted resources, repaired failing infrastructure, and avoided accidents that, statistically, should have occurred. No coordination, no communication, just alignment. Elena realized the integration was no longer theoretical. Humanity was part of the system. The dot had not only measured Earth, it had taught it to respond. The global countdown had ended, but the true sequence had begun: adaptation. And deep in the lab, Elena felt a thrill and a chill at once. "We're no longer the observers," she said. "We're participants," replied her assistant. Outside, the stars seemed normal, but they weren't. They were listening, and humanity had just started speaking back. Weeks passed, yet the world barely noticed. The changes were subtle, cumulative, almost imperceptible, but unstoppable. Patterns of human behavior shifted. Decisions once driven by fear or convenience now followed unseen cues. People solved complex problems intuitively, avoided errors, and occasionally made choices that defied logic, but always led to unexpected breakthroughs. Elena watched as the lab's instruments recorded the invisible web around Earth. Threads of energy and probability intertwined with the human neural network, connecting individuals, cities, and even natural systems in ways no one could trace. "It's not controlling us," said her colleague. "It's harmonizing us." Elena frowned. Harmonizing or evaluating? Every decision we make, every deviation from the norm, it's still observing, testing, integrating. The dot, or what remained of it, had become omnipresent yet intangible. Its presence could not be localized. It existed across spectra, across matter, across thought, and its influence was growing. Then the first conscious feedback appeared. Across multiple continents, people reported experiencing the same intuition at the same time. Solve a problem they didn't know existed. Create something they'd never imagined. Avoid dangers that hadn't happened yet. It was not collective thought, not telepathy. It was connection. The dot's signature, once a distant anomaly, had fused with Earth's information network and human cognition. Elena realized the terrifying truth. The last signal wasn't just a message. It was a catalyst, and the cycle was just beginning. Somewhere in Nevada, in that silent lab, Elena whispered, "We are no longer alone, and we never were." Across the globe, humanity took a step forward, unknowingly following the invisible hand of a presence that had no shape, no form, and no mercy for predictability. The universe was no longer a backdrop. It was a partner, and the countdown had already finished. What came next wasn't a threat. It was evolution. The world had shifted, though most people didn't notice. Patterns of life subtly altered. Cities hummed with efficiency, yet unpredictability crept in where it mattered most. The systems that once controlled human progress were now gently guided by something unseen, a force that encouraged innovation, adaptation, and improvisation. Elena walked the lab, staring at the pulsating waveform representing the dot. Its rhythm was no longer random. It matched the ebb and flow of human decision-making. Every choice, every deviation, was now part of a growing pattern, a network expanding beyond comprehension. "It's not controlling us," Elena said aloud. "It's evolving with us." Her assistant shook his head. "Or evolving us with it." Outside, satellites detected faint anomalies in space-time around Earth. Nothing catastrophic, nothing violent. Yet subtle distortions confirmed that the dot's presence wasn't confined to the planet. It extended outward, embedding itself into the fabric of reality itself. Then the first direct feedback occurred. Across the globe, millions of people simultaneously experienced the same thought. A sudden insight, a solution to a problem they had never consciously considered. Art, science, engineering, strategy, every field saw sparks of innovation that defied normal probability. Elena realized the magnitude. Humanity wasn't being guided step by step. It was being synchronized. The last signal had completed its test. Humanity had passed the threshold. Now, instead of merely observing the universe, humanity could participate, influence it, shape it, contribute to it. And in the final moments of the lab's monitoring cycle, the dot blinked one last time. Not as a threat, not as a warning. As an invitation, the universe had extended its hand, and humanity for the first time reached back. Humanity woke to subtle changes that were almost imperceptible yet undeniable. Algorithms, networks, even natural systems were behaving differently. Traffic flows optimized themselves. Power grids balanced without intervention. Scientists noticed equations solving themselves in simulations, revealing patterns that had never existed before. Elena studied the lab feeds. The dot's waveform was no longer isolated. It had fused with global systems, with human consciousness, creating a living network that spanned Earth and reached into the cosmos. Every action, every thought, every deviation from the expected was being recorded, integrated, and reflected back. "It's not guiding us," Elena said quietly. "It's learning with us." Her assistant frowned. "Or through us," he muttered. Then came the first signs of adaptation at scale. Cities began to self-correct in real time. Resources were distributed optimally without centralized control, and communities began solving complex challenges almost instinctively. People reported fleeting visions, solutions appearing in their minds before the problem fully formed. Elena realized the truth. The last signal had not just arrived, it had integrated. It had turned Earth itself into a node in a cosmic experiment, testing not survival, but evolutionary potential. And humanity was responding. For the first time, the line between observer and observed had vanished. The dot blinked once more. It no longer represented a countdown. It represented connection, and the universe was finally listening. The next step wasn't imposed, it was chosen. Humanity had passed the threshold, and the question now was simple. What would we do with this new awareness? Elena knew the world had changed forever, though no one else fully realized it yet. The lab's instruments no longer tracked ordinary physics. Everything seemed alive. Data points pulsed as if aware, calculations bent subtly toward solutions no human had conceived. Every fluctuation, every anomaly, was now part of a grander pattern. The dot, or what it had become, was no longer a single object. It was a network of influence, interwoven with Earth's systems, human cognition, and even the planet itself. It moved through probability, nudging events and decisions, sometimes imperceptibly, sometimes with dramatic effects. Global incidents confirmed the shift. Cities reorganized themselves to optimize energy and logistics. Scientists made breakthroughs without knowing how they arrived at them. Even natural systems like river flows and weather patterns subtly aligned with outcomes that minimize chaos and maximized adaptability. "It's not just guiding us," Elena murmured. "It's teaching us how to think differently." Her assistant nodded, pale. "Or teaching through us." Then a new signal appeared. A faint, structured vibration in the Earth's magnetic field. It was rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat, synchronized across continents. The waveform mirrored the collective consciousness of humanity, revealing that the planet itself had become a single living node in a cosmic network. The last signal had not only arrived, it had integrated, and humanity's role had shifted irreversibly. No longer were we mere observers. We were participants, contributors, and perhaps collaborators. Elena exhaled slowly. The universe had spoken and we had answered. But the question lingered, echoing through the lab, across the network, and deep into the cosmic void. What would humanity choose to create now that the rules had changed?